The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
2 words that everyone needs to learn this morning.
Oh, no.
Suborning perjury.
I know that
It means telling someone to lie under oath.
Right.
It is a crime.
Yes.
It is impeachable.
Yes.
And it is breaking news.
Oh,
Perhaps
no.
major breaking news.
Major.
Overnight, an explosive new report in BuzzFeed says that President Trump personally instructed Michael Cohen to lie to Congress about plans to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. Suborning perjury is a crime, and it is impeachable. So, yes, this involved Michael Cohen, the president's one-time lawyer and right-hand man who is a convicted felon and an admitted liar. But the BuzzFeed report indicates it is not his word that is central here. Citing 2 federal law enforcement officials, they report that Mueller's office learned Trump directed Cohen to lie through interviews with multiple witnesses from the Trump organization and from company emails, text messages, and other documents.
Oh, no, that's a lot of materials. That's a lot of materials. That's not anybody's word. That's not, taking the liar Michael Cohen's word for anything, is it? No, that's a lot of evidence. Holy crap. And everybody is saying, if this is true, we got him. See over there? Then we got him. If this is true, and that is the thing that everybody is breathlessly waiting for, is for other news organizations to be able to corroborate what BuzzFeed reported last night. And it was last night. I know it was last night because I tweeted it last night because I was awake at last night when the 2 reporters, Jason Leopold and Anthony Cormier, dropped the BuzzFeed report that said that Michael Cohen was directed by Donald Trump to lie to Congress under oath, and that BuzzFeed corroborated that with 2 law enforcement officials, documents from the Trump organization, emails from the Trump organization. What else? I mean, it was just like witness testimony. It's a lot. It's a lot. And what Michael Cohen was, what Michael Cohen pled guilty to, the reason why Fox News gets to say that Michael Cohen, I mean, it's the one honest thing they'll tell you, is that Michael Cohen is a liar. Michael Cohen is a liar. And there's no question in my mind, Michael Cohen is a douchey guy. Okay, Michael Cohen. I mean, even when he was going to pay off the Liberty University, oh God, Jerry Falwell, his seed. Do you remember when Jerry Falwell died? He was the only person I looked down and I said, good luck where you're going. That's how evil I thought Falwell was, and his seed lives on in that bad Jerry Falwell Jr. dude, whose chief information officer corroborated a report that Michael Cohen told Mueller that the chief information officer at Liberty University was paid $12,000 to rig polls, online polls, for one Donald Trump, which Donald Trump kept referring to in the campaign over and over about how he was winning, and that the other polls were rigged. See, the online polls, according to Donald Trump, those were the real polls. The other polls, the CNN polls and the NBC Wall Street Journal poll, and even the most friendly poll, the Rasmussen poll, those were all rigged. Only the online polls were believable, and now we know why he put so much faith in those, is because he was paying for the results. And Michael Cohen said that he paid Jerry Falwell's chief information officer at Liberty University $12,000, according to the report, in a Walmart bag, but still billed Donald Trump $50,000 and pocketed the other $38,000. So why do I think Michael Cohen's a douchebag? That's one example. The other example is the lying that he did do. And the lying that he did do, that he pled guilty to, according to the charging documents, had everything to do with the campaign. It had to do with the cover-up of the payments to David Peckerhead at the National Enquirer and to Stormy Daniels and the non-disclosure agreement. Remember that? Remember Michael Avenatti? Remember all those? Yeah. And Michael Cohen kept lying. And when he was asked about it, he lied about that to Congress. He lied about that under oath. And he lied about that to the Mueller investigators. And then after his office was raided, apparently Michael Cohen liked to tape Donald Trump. And there was a tape of Michael Cohen talking to Donald Trump about having to, make a payment to our friend David. And the big contretemps was, did he say he would pay in cash or did he say he would pay by check? But the actual news was that Michael Cohen was lying under oath and lying to investigators. So Michael Cohen is a liar, but what does he lie about? Why did he plead guilty to what kind of a lie? He pled guilty to lying about protecting Donald Trump's campaign. That's the sick thing. And so, yes, now they get to call Michael Cohen a liar. Yes, Donald Trump gets to call Michael Cohen a liar. Fox News gets to call Michael Cohen a liar. So would I rely? Would Mueller rely? Would Southern District of New York rely on anything Michael Cohen says? If it's, good news for the investigators or if it's bad news? No, nobody's going to rely on Michael Cohen's word. So there has to be evidence, documentary evidence, tape evidence, banking records, all kind, other witnesses' testimony, multiple witnesses, internal company emails from the Trump organization, cell phones and text messages and other documents. That is what this particular BuzzFeed report relies on. I just want you to know. And as far as whether or not those polls were actually rigged, we know that that's true. Why? Because the CIO, the Chief Information Officer for Jerry Falwell Jr.'s Liberty University, was questioned by Mueller and now admits that he was paid by Michael Cohen. He was owed. His complaint was that he didn't get paid, just like Michael Cohen's complaint was that he didn't get paid. Remember, the whole thing, the whole break apart between Michael Cohen and Donald Trump was that Michael Cohen wasn't reimbursed for the $130,000 that he took a home equity loan, lied on the loan application, which he also pled guilty to get the $130,000 to pay Stormy Daniels on behalf of the Trump campaign. And Michael Cohen obviously, did do these things because there's banking records. And there's loan applications on which he lied. Same thing with this Liberty University story. The CIO of Liberty University, and Michael Cohen, remember the big break apart was Michael Cohen didn't get reimbursed. And he was pissed off, and he thought that all this loyalty to Donald Trump would be rewarded by a position in the White House, maybe chief of staff or White House counsel or some big damn job. And he got nothing. He got squat because Trump is a one-way street when it comes to paying people. Hello, government workers. I hate that you're not working, but I love that you have time to listen now. That's good. Hi, welcome in. But that was the big break apart. Well, the CIO of Liberty University said the same damn thing, that he asked Michael Cohen for $50,000. Michael Cohen promised him $50,000 and promised him more business with the Trump organization, but he only got $12,000. Michael Cohen pocketed 38 of the 50 that he did get from Donald Trump. So these are the scumbags that we're talking about, okay? There's a whole crew of them. There's a whole cast of them. The Manaforts, the Gates, the Flynns, the Juniors, the Jareds, even Ivanka is in this article, okay? And so we know that the CIO of Liberty University said he did rig the polls, so we know that that's true.
They do these online polls. Who won the debate? I've won every debate according to the polls. Now, I don't know. maybe, maybe not.
They're doing these online polls, like 6 or 7 every debate. I've won every single poll in every single debate, and I'm really happy about it.
Online poll right after. I've won every single poll of every single company for every single debate.
I mean, you look at my poll numbers now, I think I've done great in the debates. According to every online poll, I've won every debate.
You know, I've won every single debate according to the online polls. I don't know. Drudge does a big poll. Hundreds of thousands of people vote after the debate. Drudge, they do an online poll right after the debate. And believe me, hundreds of thousands. I am not telling people to make phone calls, all right? It's an online poll, which I think are actually better in many respects than when they interview 300 people and they say you're winning. I don't understand 300 people. Believe me, I'm not calling up hundreds of thousands of people, I can tell you.
All of the different online polls had me winning the debate, you know, by a lot. So I immediately look at that. I want to see, how did I do? I check the online polls. And, you know, they have 200,000, 300,000 people calling, and they have a lot of people. I believe in those polls.
Let's hope it all boils down to winning on November 8th. Otherwise, honestly, I've wasted my time.
Conservatism is a racket.
It's a racket. And those online polls that he kept on telling you he was winning, they were rigged. They were rigged. And when he was telling you that the real polling was rigged, it was exactly opposite land. It's exactly backwards from what was really rigged. I mean, this is what this guy did because he's a con man. He's P.T. Barnum. And the base, Al-Qaeda, Cult 45, the maggots, they're the sucker that was born every minute. There's a sucker born every minute. That's what P.T. Barnum said. And Donald Trump treated them like suckers. And some of them are still, suckling. I don't know why. But anyway, the story that was written in BuzzFeed it's not that long. It's amazing. It was written by Jason Leopold and Anthony Cormier. And what it says is that Trump directed Michael Cohen to lie to Congress about negotiations to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. They cited 2 federal law enforcement officials involved in the investigation. Trump also supported a plan that was set up by Michael Cohen to go ahead and visit Russia and meet Vladimir Putin personally and jumpstart the Trump Tower negotiations. He said to Michael Cohen, make it happen. And Trump told the public the whole time that he had no business deals in Russia, that there was nothing that could happen in Russia, because he had no one to talk to in Russia, wouldn't know who to talk to in Russia. And as it turns out, not only did he have somebody to talk to in Russia, but Michael Cohen and Felix Sater. Everybody forgets about poor little Felix. Don't forget about Felix from Bayrock. Don't forget about Felix. Felix is a FBI informant. He's an FBI informant because Felix was a mafioso and Felix was a stock pump and dump scheme runner. He got in a lot of trouble with the law, and to get out of trouble with the law, he became an informant. And Felix Sater was a senior advisor to the Trump Organization, has a business card saying so, and Donald Trump is willing to lie under oath. You want to see Donald Trump lie under oath? I thought you might want to. I thought you might be interested in watching him lie under oath. I have 43 different sound bites today. But here, this is Trump testifying that he doesn't know Felix Sater under oath in a deposition.
We weren't doing much with him. We were dealing with Bayrock. We weren't doing much with him, so I don't think it made much of a... I think this was maybe the article where it talked about the barroom fight, actually.
Okay.
But I vaguely remember it.
Okay. Do you remember ever discussing the content of this article with him?
With Mr.
Sater? Mr. Sater, yeah.
No, I don't remember.
Okay. Did you ever discuss at any point issues relating to the barroom brawl?
Nothing I remember.
Okay. About how many times have you conversed with Mr. Sater?
Over the years?
Over the years, if you could estimate.
Not many.
Not many.
If he were sitting in the room right now, I really wouldn't know what he looked like.
Okay. So when you say not many, I mean, can you count that on one hand?
No, I wouldn't know what to say about that, because I don't know. He would call. I think he dealt mostly with my company, not with me.
Okay.
But if he would call, I'd take his call, because he was representing Bayrock. He was an official. He wasn't the boss. He was an official of Bayrock. I mean, you should ask these questions to Bayrock. He worked for Bayrock. He didn't work for me.
Okay, so that's Trump lying under oath. And you know what's interesting about that? That is November of 2013. Okay, November of 2013. You want to hear Trump in November of 2013 talking about that he has business in Russia? And the business that he had in Russia was the Trump Tower Moscow business in Russia, which Felix Sater and Michael Cohen were in charge of. Felix Sater and Michael Cohen are childhood friends from, Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. That's where a lot of Ukrainian people live. And guess what a lot of Ukrainian people do? They speak Russian. And Felix Sater is a Russian speaker. And so he was the envoy. You remember the emails between Michael Cohen and Felix Sater? Our boy could be president. I'm going to get Putin to go all in on this Trump Tower Moscow. And if he does, then our boy could be elected president. There were several interviews that Felix Sater gave. He said, what was the connection between building a tower and Trump being president? And Felix Sater hedges. He just says, oh, well, then they would see him as a good businessman. But here's Trump talking about, and this is the same month that he's been deposed, that he doesn't even know Felix Sater, talking about business in Russia.
We've met with a number of people, and we may do something in Moscow and in various parts of Russia, but we have had some meetings while I'm here, and we could very well do something. We're thinking about doing a Trump Tower Moscow, so we're talking to a group of people about doing that.
And the people who were talking to the group of people about doing that was Donald Trump, Ivanka Trump, Jr., Felix Sater, and Michael Cohen. It's funny that, the mainstream doesn't pick up on these little clips, I mean, they got all the interviews of Felix Sater. That's how I have those. Because Chris Cuomo sat down with Felix Sater and Chris Hayes sat down with Felix Sater. A lot of people sat down with Felix Sater. CNN sat down with Felix. All of a sudden, Felix Sater was doing a lot of media. To get the focus off of him because he's an FBI informant, is why. But anyway, this BuzzFeed article said that Ivanka and Donald Trump got regular, detailed updates about Trump Tower Moscow from Michael Cohen, who was put in charge of Trump Tower Moscow project, and that this went right through the whole election.
Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David, so that I'm going to do that right away. I've actually come up and I spoke to me.
In the recording, the two men are heard discussing a payment to Trump's friend, David Pecker, who heads American Media Incorporated, the company that owned the rights to Karen McDougal's story, the woman who alleges a 10-month-long affair with Trump. Attorneys for the president and Cohen don't dispute that part of the tape, but disagree on the method of payment discussed.
We'll have to pay you, so no.
So everyone out there, listen to the tapes. Whatever spin Mr. Giuliani is trying to invent, it says cash, and Michael Cohen says, no.
There's no way the president is going to be talking about setting up a corporation and then using cash.
That was the big argument, was whether it was by cash. And this seems to be the big argument about rigging the polls. Did Michael Cohen give him a bag of cash, a Walmart bag of cash, or did he write him a check? Who the hell cares how they screw each other and pay in bags of cash or by check? I don't care. All I know is that Michael Cohen lied, and yes, Michael Cohen is a liar. There's no question Michael Cohen is a liar. He's also a douchebag because he steals from his own boss, okay, who gave him a living by being his fixer. And Trump is so dirty that he needs a fixer, and now he's the president of the United States. These are some of the scummiest people you will ever come across in your lifetime. And Trump is in the ultimate position of power, and we have got to get him out of this ultimate position of power because he is destroying our security. He is destroying national security. He's destroying lives. He's destroying the people who work for our government. He's destroying our ability to get our tax refund. Tax season starts on my birthday. January 28th is the beginning of tax season. And I talked to my accountant, Joey. Oh, yeah. Joey. Yay, Joey. Shout out. Joey. And he says, I don't know. I don't know when you're going to get a refund. I don't know when you're going to get. And we want to invest that refund back into this business because I want to do some stuff. I want to change, the way it looks. And I got another project I want to do. Now, I can't do it unless I get my tax refund over here. And Joey doesn't know if we get a tax refund over here. You got farmers that don't know what to freaking plant. You got farmers that need to go to the Farm Bureau to get their loans to buy their seed, and they don't know what they're doing, okay? And their $12 billion didn't go out. And then you got ordinary people who are working 6 days a week, directing traffic. I was talking to Brett and Scott just now, and I said, I don't even want to put this in your head, but it's in our heads. So I guess it's in yours too. But, February 3rd is the Super Bowl, and it's in Atlanta. And, we're all talking about, how everybody's saying the Super Bowl will still be secure and da-da-da-da, don't you worry about it. And I'm thinking, of course, it will be a secure place and, they'll have plenty of presence, going through your bags and making sure you're not bringing, loaded guns and things like that. But what about the skies above? I mean, I saw this old movie called, what was it called? Bloody Sunday? Frightening, about the blimp and the Super Bowl. It's frightening. And you just think to yourself, my God, I'm not asking you, should you be afraid? I don't want to know, are you afraid? Because that's a different question. But I'm saying, if you were a group of any nefarious sort and you wanted to inflict harm in America, whether it was through cyber or whether it was through aircraft, you kind of got a better playing field now than you would if everybody was on the job and getting paid, right? I mean, it's just sick. It's sick what this man is doing. And the reason why the farmers need that $12 billion is because of his idiotic China war, his trade war. No soybean orders. This is just crazy. And why? Because he wanted to build Trump Tower in Moscow? Really? Well, according to this BuzzFeed article, that deal was worth $300 million. There are people that are, waiting for grants for their science, their energy saving, I mean, I remember people who were investing in algae. Seriously, algae as an alternative fuel, algae, naturally grown algae. And they were going to the Department of Energy and they were asking for grants. Now, to fill out a grant application is a long-ass process. You have to have lawyers, lobbyists, everything to shepherd that grant through to get it. All those people that are sitting there waiting for their $1 million or they're sitting there waiting for their $42,000 investment by, the government or, the Department of Energy or the Department of Agriculture or environmental protection. If you have, some, everybody is in a standstill now. Nobody can get any grants. Nobody can get any loans. Through the government. The farmers can't. All this stuff has come to a screeching halt. These are the cascading effects that most people don't realize, and that is why it has a negative impact on the economy. And it's cost us so far $3.7 billion, and if it goes another 2 weeks, it will have cost our economy more than the stupid $5.6 billion that he wants for his idiotic wall. I mean, this man is just a disaster. He is a disgrace. He's demented. And the only reason why he keeps fighting for this wall is because the right wing keeps telling him to do it. See, the media, I think, has it ass backwards. They think that Rush Limbaugh is telling Trump and Aunt Coulter is telling Trump that if he doesn't get the wall, he's dead. And what I think it really is Bill Shine telling Ann Coulter and Bill Shine of Fox News, now the communications director, acting, of course, in Trump's White House, telling Rush Limbaugh, telling Sean Hannity what to put out on the air and that they should keep on telling their audience that if Trump doesn't get the wall, then Trump is finished, so that they will be for the stupid shutdown, for the stupid wall. See, I think they get it exactly backwards. Rush Limbaugh does not have all that clout. Sean Hannity's got 3 million people on a good day. Ann Coulter's got a Twitter feed. You know, this is so ridiculous that they would be able to do what the media is saying that they're doing. No, it's the other way around. It's the Bill Shine of the world who's telling Rush and Sean and Ann Coulter to stay on message, stay on this message. And they do, for the stupid wall. We know we don't need a stupid wall, okay? We just know that. And that's all Trump talks about. You know, when he paid his respects to the troops at the Pentagon, he talked about his stupid wall. He gave the creepiest briefing at the Pentagon yesterday. Well, he was talking like this, almost like Dick Cheney. We are more powerful than we've ever been in the history of the whole thing was just so creepy. And then, you know, every time he talked to the freaking Coast Guard on Thanksgiving, and now he's not paying the Coast Guard. And what did he talk to the Coast Guard about on Thanksgiving? He talked to the Coast Guard about bad people on the border. That's all he talks to the military. Military wants to know, how long are we going to be in Syria? And are we, leaving? Are we staying? Are we going? Do we move our equipment? Do we leave our equipment? What do we do, sir? We're waiting for some, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. They don't know what the hell the military plan is for Syria. Lindsey Graham doesn't know. No one knows. Trump doesn't know. So nobody knows what the commander-in-chief wants. It's all a big chaotic mess. Yeah, no, I know which ones it is. Do you want to hear this? This is just so sick. This is so sick. Here's him at the Pentagon yesterday paying his respects to the fallen in Syria because he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And then he talks about a stupid wall.
Before presenting the results of our missile defense review, I want to take a moment to express my deepest condolences to the families of the brave American heroes who laid down their lives yesterday in selfless service to our nation. These are great people, great, great people. We will never forget their noble and immortal sacrifice. This morning, I also would like to briefly address another matter of critical national security, the humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border.
Oh, my God, he's at the Pentagon.
Without a strong border, America is defenseless, vulnerable, and unprotected. I also want to thank the military for helping us out during the big caravan period, but now you have more caravans forming, and they're on the way up. Thousands and thousands of people. We don't know where they're from, who they are, nothing. We need strong borders. We need strong barriers and walls.
Creepy.
Nothing else is going to work. Everyone knows it. Everybody's saying it now. It's just a question of time. This should have been done many years ago.
It was.
It should have been done by other presidents.
Now he's off the teleprompter.
And it wasn't. Just like many of the other things we're doing that could have been done many years ago, whether it's our negotiations with North Korea, moving the embassy to Jerusalem.
Okay, you get the idea. He went on like this for a long-ass time. A very, very long, creepy-ass, snorting breathing. And you could tell he's on the teleprompter. Oh, we need, and we have to, and we don't know who they are, and we don't know what they want, and they don't know where they're coming from, and they don't. He was on there, and then all of a sudden, you could tell, really, past presidents should have done it. They did do it. 2006, we did it. We had the Secure Fences Act. Remember that? Yeah, and then last year we gave him $1.6 billion for Homeland Security. He didn't even spend the money at the border that he was given. And then this year he wants 5.6, or else you don't get paid. You should work for free for him, which is pretty much a theme in his life, right? For his stupid wall. And that's all he talks about. It's so creepy. This is him talking to the Coast Guard on Thanksgiving. Coast Guard.
If you were looking at it as a brand, there's no brand that went up more than the Coast Guard with what happened in Texas. And I was
Wait. I just want you to, I know the audio sucks. I just want you to understand what he just said. If you look at it as a brand, the Coast Guard's brand has gone up. And he's going to praise them for the unbelievable amount of lives that were saved in Texas.
In particular, Texas has been incredible. You saved 16,000 lives. Nobody knows that. 16,000 lives. In fact, when I first heard the number, I said,
you mean like 600, 500, 16,000 lives in Texas. So as bad as that hurricane was, and that was a bad one. That was a big water job, right? It kept coming in and going back.
Look at them. They're like, what?
They've never seen. I guess it was the biggest water dump they've ever seen. But when you get 16,000, good-looking group of people.
Good-looking group of people.
16,000, that's really something. And then Florida hit. And you know that one very well. You knew that one pretty well, right? And the job you did.
And now he's not paying them. Now look at that spread he brought there, okay? You see like some fresh fruits and breads. There's also a lot of Lay's potato chips and some Cheetos. But it's not as bad as the Clemson Tigers got. But he's going to say it again. Your brand went up.
Florida. And then Puerto Rico. And I really mean that. I think that there is no brand.
No brand.
Of any kind. I'm not just talking about a military brand that has gone up more than the Coast Guard.
And now we're not paying you. Screw you. We're not paying you. And then after that, he talked about the stupid wall. And those poor schmucks had to stand there and listen to him. And now they're not getting paid. Those are our Florida Coast Guard members. Those are our guys. Those are the ones that come and save your ass in a hurricane. Here, if you have a big water job. Great brand, the Coast Guard. Great brand. Invest in the brand, Mr. President. Open this freaking government. I mean, it's just so unbelievable. We actually have to. I don't know if you saw this, but there was an admiral, the admiral of the Coast Guard. He sent the most sad note I'd ever seen in my life. He wrote to the Coast Guard members, to the service members, that this would be the first time in the history of the United States that service members of the military, went without a paycheck, and how sorry he was. It was bad. Yeah.
To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844.
BuzzFeed News reports that President Trump directed his then attorney, Michael Cohen, to lie to Congress about negotiations to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, citing 2 federal law enforcement officials involved in an investigation of the matter. NBC News has not independently confirmed this report. BuzzFeed sources go on to allege that the president and his children, Ivanka and Donald Trump Jr., received regular, detailed updates about the real estate development from Cohen, whom they put in charge of the project, despite Trump's repeated claims to have no business deals with Russia. The 2 sources tell BuzzFeed that Cohen also told the special counsel that after the election, the president personally instructed him to lie by claiming that negotiations ended months earlier than they actually did in order to obscure Donald Trump's involvement.
Okay, so that's obstruction of justice. Just so you know, that is obstruction of justice. There is no question about that. The fact that they've all been lying for a really long time should not be a surprise to you. Donald Trump, kept on denying that he had any business in Russia over and over, and that he wouldn't even know who to talk to. He wouldn't even know.
I mean, I have nothing to do with Russia. I don't have any jobs in Russia. I'm all over the world, but we're not involved in Russia. I have no relationship to Russia. I don't deal there. I have no businesses there. I have no loans from Russia.
I have nothing to do with Russia, folks, okay?
I don't have any deals in Russia. I have nothing to do with Russia. I have no investments in Russia, none whatsoever. I have no dealings with Russia. I have no deals in Russia. I have no deals that could happen in Russia because we've stayed away.
What do I know about the Russians? What do I know about the Russians? Then they said he borrows money from. I don't borrow money from the Russians. I promise you, I don't have any deals with Russia. I had Miss Universe there a couple of years ago. Other than that, no. I have nothing to do.
I have nothing to do. I wouldn't even know who to talk to. I don't know. I have nothing that could happen in Russia because I wouldn't, we stayed away. We stayed away.
We've met with a number of people, and we may do something in Moscow and in various parts of Russia, but we have had some meetings while I'm here, and we could very well do something. We're thinking about doing a Trump Tower, Moscow, so we're talking to a group of people about doing that.
And they never stopped talking to a group of people about doing that. And what's really interesting is that because it's a $300 million project that he wants very badly, that Michael Cohen stayed with, that Felix Sater stayed with, that his children stayed with throughout the campaign while he was lying, that he told Michael Cohen to lie about to Congress in order to obstruct the breadth and depth of the investigation. Perhaps this is the reason why he is so friendly and so willing to believe Vladimir Putin's denials.
My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be. Personally, it could be Russia. I don't really think it is, but who knows? I don't know either. She's saying Russia, 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 but I don't. Maybe it was. I mean, it could be Russia, but it could also be China. It could also be lots of other people. It also could be somebody sitting on their bed that weighs 400 pounds, okay?
No, it's not okay.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
That was the same day that Russia actually did start hacking Hillary Clinton's emails. Same day. So they were listening, and he knew they were listening. And why in the hell would he stand on the campaign trail and out of his giant orange ass pull out a random country like that?
Russia, if you're listening.
I mean, what the hell? What was the motivation there? Russia, if you're who was thinking? Oh, apparently he was. Apparently he was. So what to do now? What to do now that there is documentary evidence that the president suborned perjury? And is the subornation of perjury, is that obstruction of justice? Let's go to Bill Barr, who's going to be our next attorney general. Let's ask him.
You wrote on page 1 that a president persuading a person to commit perjury would be obstruction. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Or any person who persuades another to, yeah.
Okay. You also said that a president or any person convincing a witness to change testimony would be obstruction. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And on page 2, you said that a president deliberately impairing the integrity or availability of evidence would be an obstruction. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, then. Lindsay, would you like a crack at the apple? Would you like to ask him if what your president did would constitute obstruction before you vote for him? Would you like to? Would you? I think you would.
If there was some reason to believe that the president tried to coach somebody not to testify or testify falsely, that could be obstruction of justice.
Yes, under that, yeah, under an obstruction statute, yes.
So if there's some evidence that the president tried to conceal evidence, that would be obstruction of justice potentially, right?
And you remember I said you got to take your joy where you can, and the idea that Fox was very upset with Bill Barr's confirmation hearing, and that they were saying, can't they find an attorney general who hasn't been friends with Bob Mueller for 25 years, whose wife didn't go with Mueller's wife to Bible study? Can't we find I knew that Trump never vetted this guy. That the only reason he picked Bill Barr is because Bill Barr is the greatest lobbyist in the history of lobbying. That he put this document out, this 19-page argument, that firing Comey, and all 19 pages of it, it's deep legal crap, okay? That's why I haven't read it to you on the air, and it's also 19 pages. But it's deep, deep legal argument that firing Comey doesn't constitute obstruction of justice. That's all it is. It takes that one narrow issue about firing Comey not being obstruction of justice, because the president can fire anybody. Except what he leaves out in these 19 pages is the president can't fire anybody for any reason. You have to have good cause. You have to have cause. You can't just fire anybody for any reason. You can't fire them for political reasons. You can't fire them for religious reasons. You can't fire them because you don't like their race or their background. You know, like Judge Curiel, who is an American born in Indiana. He had Mexican heritage, and so Trump didn't want him sitting on his case on the Trump University fraud. That resulted in a $25 million settlement that Trump had to pay, right? So you can't do that. But it's ironic that Bill Barr is the person who will crush this administration.
Let me give you one angle here that nobody's talking about that Barr exchange, and that is when Jeff Sessions was there, the president could claim there's one guy, Mueller, with a bunch of random Democrats running an investigation. This is a Comey moment. You fire Comey, you get Mueller. You dump Sessions because Sessions isn't involved in the investigation. You can't say my nominee is overseeing the investigation. You get Barr, who just basically said, when I see this stuff, I'm going to bring a hammer down. I'm going to tell you, Barr will be one of the most significant appointees the president has ever made. Because Barr, I suspect, is going to crush the administration. The president's going to say, I never saw that one coming.
That's what happens when you don't vet people. And the president doesn't vet anybody because the president can't find anybody to work for him. It's kind of like Border Patrol. You get the flotsam and the jetsam. You know, you get 2,000 people that are arrested as they're being law enforcement. So, you know, Trump can't find a decent attorney general. He had to go to a lobby shop. He had to find a guy who has business in front of the government, the AT&T Time Warner merger, that's being challenged by the Justice Department under our antitrust laws. And Barr wants that merger to go forward because he's invested in it. And so he said, I'll write a letter, I'll get the president's attention, I'll be pro-Trump, and I'll be in charge of the merger. Best lobbyist ever. Bar none. Now I think I understand where that comes from. And, you know, Michael Smerconic, he picked up on it too, I got to say. He got it.
How ironic, because I think it's that memo that got him the gig.
Definitely.
But for him having pursued that academic exercise of writing that memo, I don't know that he would have been on the radar screen of the president to the extent that he was. I mean, I doubt the president ever read the 20 pages.
Me too.
I waded through them. It's pretty heady stuff, even for attorneys.
Right.
But I can certainly understand someone giving the president an encapsulation that says, hey, you're going to love this guy Barr because he doesn't believe in the Mueller probe. And now Amy Klobuchar, you know, correctly pursues what he wrote in that memo, and we're applying it to what we just have learned from BuzzFeed. It may be the interpretation of the memo that is the worst thing for the president of the United States. But Bill Barr is absolutely on record, as you've just stated. I mean, there's and it's not complicated stuff. There's no other interpretation here except that the president would have committed a crime, and a serious crime, if this report is accurate.
If this report is accurate. And that is the irony of it. And that, I swear to you, I think, because Bill Barr doesn't know anything about anything. He doesn't know about the Presidential Records Act. He didn't know the statutes. He doesn't know a lot of things. He hesitates before he answers any legal questions because he's not an attorney. He's a lawyer lobbyist, is what he is. And he saw a way to get in there. And I'll tell you, this is what lobbyists do. I've seen them work. I understand them very, very well. And they'll do things like write op-eds. They'll do things like, write letters to, the majority leader or they will find people who are experts in this area or that area to write a letter and put it into the record. That's what they do. They find any way they can to get the attention of whoever is sitting judging what happens to this tax, issue or that business merger. It's what they do. It's how they do it. And who phoned Bill Barr out of the clear blue sky? It wasn't Donald Trump. It was the ambassador to Israel, an Orthodox Jewish guy from New York who gave a lot of money and became the ambassador to Israel. And he's going through a laundry list looking for somebody to help on the president's defense team because everybody quits and says this guy is so stupid. Okay, Dowd, The End of Fear, the Bob Woodward book, the last thing in it is Dowd saying that how stupid this man is, an idiot, and he quits. So they're going crazy trying to find people to sit on the defense team, and so the Israeli ambassador calls up Bill Barr after looking at his LinkedIn page. I swear to God, that's what we're down to for Attorney General. We're looking on LinkedIn. Holy guacamole! And he calls him up and he says, "Did you ever say anything bad about the president?" No. You said nothing in public, nothing that was on tape. No. Why you ask? Well, we need people to join the president's defense team. He's like, I'll meet with the president, but I'm not really interested in being on the defense team. I'm really interested in being Attorney General of the United States. I got a merger. And the Justice Department has appealed it. And already got like 1.73 out of it. I need the rest of the money. I need the money. Give me the money. You'll get your money, Maury. That's what this is. There is just no doubt about it. That is what this is. So now, everybody is noticing that Bill Barr, because he was not prepared at all for this confirmation hearing, because he just did the vote counts, because that's all lobbyists do. Do I have the votes? Yeah, well, don't make any waves. Don't give new information. Don't give any information that they don't already have on the paper. Just say you don't recall a lot. Say you haven't, looked at the law lately. But he didn't know nothing. He didn't know about he was the former Attorney General for 14 lousy months. And then went right into, GTE, the wireless communications business, and then bought all these other companies for GTE, and then they became Verizon, and he worked there until 2009. I mean, you're talking like from 1993 to 2009. That's what he did. He acquired other wireless companies and turned it into Verizon, got his payday, left, got bored, and went over to Time Warner and sat on their board as a lawyer lobbyist. And then they wanted to merge with AT&T, and it went through. It was approved. And then Trump's Justice Department filed an appeal to halt it. They got into a big fight, Bill Barr did, and the lead counsel for Time Warner with the assistant deputy at the antitrust division, to the point where the general counsel for Time Warner put his finger in the face of the deputy at the antitrust division and told him he'd make this personal. And he would make it look, he said, I'll make the firing of James Comey look stupid. I'll make the Jimmy Hoffa story look stupid. Why do they all talk like this? You'll get your money, Maury. You'll get your money. What Maury didn't know was just how close he had come to getting whacked that night.
Mary had a little man. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Rudy Giuliani told several media outlets, if you believe Cohen, I can get you a great deal on the Brooklyn Bridge. The BuzzFeed report also claims special counsel Robert Mueller learned about the president's alleged directive to lie not just from Cohen, but from interviews with witnesses from the Trump organization, internal company emails, and text messages. During the campaign, President Trump claimed he had no business ties with Russia.
I don't deal there. I have no businesses that have no loans from Russia.
But late last year, the president admitted on Twitter he lightly looked at doing a building in Moscow. Cohen made clear to our George Stephanopoulos that his actions were directed by President Trump himself.
He's saying very clearly that he never directed you to do anything wrong. Is that true?
I don't think there's anybody that believes that. First of all, nothing at the Trump organization was ever done unless it was run through Mr. Trump.
The issue of obstruction specifically addressed during William Barr's confirmation hearing for Attorney General.
In your memo, you talked about the Comey decision, and you talked about obstruction of justice, and you already went over that, which I appreciate. You wrote on page 1 that a president persuading a person to commit perjury would be obstruction. Is that right?
Yes. Now responding to the new BuzzFeed report, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Democrat Adam Schiff, called the allegations among the most serious to date, vowing to do what's necessary to find out if it's true.
Yeah, I mean, if it's true, this is the whole thing. If it's true, we got him. If it's true, the president of the United States has two options. Go through impeachment and removal. It's a bitch, Mitch. It's a bitch. Hashtag where's Mitch? Or resign. That's it. That's what he'll be left with. Two choices. Resign let Mike Pence pardon you, or go through an impeachment and a removal. That's it. That's all he's got. That's what we're up to here, if it's true. If it's true, okay? And Trump's got nothing left to offer you. I just want everybody to know, as Fox is going to get you all riled up, because Bill Shine is good. You know, if it comes to impeachment, and I think that they will do that. I don't think Donald Trump will resign. I think he will go through impeachment, and like at the last minute, if he sees there's 67 votes in the Senate to remove him, it's a bitch, Mitch. But if he does, that's when he'll resign and let Mike Pence, unless Mike Pence is implicated by then too. Because remember, Mike Pence was in charge of the transition, and the transition is under investigation as well. Trump Charity, Trump Foundation, that's been disbanded, dissolved, because Trump has been banned, and his children have been banned from sitting in a position of trust or honor on any charity for the next 10 years. That's how dirty these people are. That's how loosey-goosey they are with other people's money. Can you imagine? They got their hands on the Treasury? Holy God. Oh, my God. So today there was a conversation about, well, first of all, I got to tell you, there's already been obstruction of justice. There already was. The day that Donald Trump dictated to Hope Hicks on Air Force One a letter that said that Donald Trump Jr. had met with the Russians in June of 2016 in Trump Tower and lied and was doing it for release to the press and was, Hope Hicks and everybody else was lying and they were dictating a letter. That was a cover-up. That was there was a live investigation, and they were covering up what was learned. And the thing that we learned was that there was a meeting with a Russian, agent, Natalia Veselnitskaya, and it wasn't about adoption. It was about sanctions. And they were trading a lifting of the sanctions for dirt on Hillary Clinton. We know that. And they obstructed. And then there was further obstruction of justice. And it happened the other day when Donald Trump called into Jeanine Pirro. That's why I kept playing you that horrible clip. I told you, I don't want to expose you to women in cocktail dresses doing purported news. It's propaganda. But I had to, because I wanted you to hear from Donald Trump's own pie hole that he was threatening Michael Cohen's family. He said that, you ought to look into his father-in-law. That's where all the money is. Look into his father-in-law. That was to intimidate a witness, Michael Cohen, who is going to testify in front of Congress on February 7th. Donnie Deutsch said, and Donnie Deutsch apparently talks to Michael Cohen like every single freaking day. And he was kind of outraged, too, that the president had said that he heard it also. And this morning, he was on with Mika, and he said the same damn thing.
This is one nugget. One nugget. Let's think about 70 hours of Michael speaking. Let's think about the dozens of hours of Hope Hicks, and on and on and on. And none of these people are going to be lying to Bob Mueller to save their own hide. So it is going to be stunning, this level of lying, this level of obstruction. Speaking of obstruction, it's only a day later, and I don't want to leave the story. All the things that Trump has done, it is one of the most heinous. 2 days ago when Trump went on TV and threatened Michael Cohen's father-in-law. Right. That is obstruction. I'll tell you why it's obstruction. Because I was on the phone with Michael. And Michael's first reaction was, I'm not testifying. I can't do this. They're going after my family, my innocent father-in-law. So if that's not obstruction, and he will testify. But that is the level that Donald Trump would go through. So the fact that he told Trump to lie to Congress about the tower, there is nothing he wouldn't do. And you saw it on display when he went after his father-in-law. So this is the tip of the iceberg for a president that is going down hard.
Going down hard. And, take it with a grain of salt, but Lanny Davis said the same thing this morning.
He should give information maybe on his father-in-law, because that's the one that people want to look at, because where does that money? That's the money in the family. And I guess he didn't want to talk about his father-in-law. He's trying to get his sentence reduced. So it's pretty sad. It's weak.
Has that had an impact on Mr. Cohen, as we've seen reports about?
Very much so. He is very concerned, as is his family, that a bully in the bully pulpit named Donald Trump calls out a member of his family, and he's also called out other members of his family, using the White House platform on a national television show. Let me be very clear here. This is a definition of witness tampering and intimidation, and could be obstruction of justice. But more than that, if there's one thing at a time of this shutdown and the worst polarization in my lifetime in this country, if there's one thing that can bring Trump voters and anti-Trump voters, Democrats and Republicans together, it is to draw the line that family is out of bounds.
Oh, you're sunny optimist, Lanny, even after all these years. A sunny, shiny, sunny optimist. That America could be brought together because the thugs are threatening each other's family. No, the only reason why I care about it is because it's obstruction of justice. It's witness intimidation. It's witness tampering. It is exactly what Richard Nixon's articles of impeachment were when they were drafted, why Richard Nixon resigned, because articles of impeachment were drafted, and obstruction of justice, suborning perjury, those things were in there. Bill Clinton, he went through the impeachment, and he went through the trial in the Senate. But he was also impeached for suborning perjury. The accusation with Clinton was he asked Monica to lie. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Yeah, it's like a meteor would hit the earth. You know what I mean? Oh, yes. But that is, they take it very seriously and blah, 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 and this and that. So now is the question of what should we do? What do we do?
We have part of the script here, which is the BuzzFeed report comes out. Rudy Giuliani, what is your reaction? Michael Cohen is a liar, okay? The next part of the play is this. Yeah. Okay, but here's the evidence that the president suborned perjury and asked Michael Cohen to lie. Right. What's your reaction to that, Rudy Giuliani?
Maybe the Ed Koch Bridge also, or another bridge, the George Washington Bridge. Listen, I said this yesterday. Giuliani's role in all of this is to confuse everyone. Yes. Is to really just say, this is all really complicated. And it's working, and he's very good at it. The problem is, this is a complicated case. This piece is simple. Simple. Very simple. And to the point about, I disagree with Chris Murphy for a different reason. Democrats should not want to get ahead of Mueller because it will become hyper-partisan in that context. They want Mueller to make the first move and then come in behind them. And politically, that is critical.
So that's one opinion, but it is simple. I mean, everybody understands that Trump lies, and Trump lied under oath. Like I said, I have that deposition. You can watch that deposition. Obviously, Felix Sater, who he said he didn't even know in 2013, when he also said that he was looking into Trump Tower Moscow and was meeting with various people in front of a sign for Cerberbank and the Crocus Group. And the Crocus Group is that Goldstone guy who arranged the Trump Tower meeting. That's the relationships, okay, playing themselves out through the campaign that, all these names that you knew, that you learned. Well, they were very well known to a guy like Felix Sater. He had continued working on Trump Tower Moscow and continued, according to Rudy Giuliani, through November of 2016, through the election. And Sater communicated with Russian bankers and Russian developers and VTB Bank and officials connected to the Kremlin. That is a revelation that we saw in the Mueller charging document against Michael Cohen last November, which is only a few months ago. So everybody, it's like, another story. Why can't they stick with the same narrative? Because this is a simple story. This is a very simple story. The story is a story of trying to enrich yourself, getting help from the Russians, because they wanted a Russian puppet. They wanted a Russian asshat to get us out of NATO, to tank our economy, to divide America. Same thing with Europe and the Brexit crowd, the Marine Le Pens. They were all what's the word that they call cultivated? Nigel Farage, Julian Assange, Marine Le Pen, Michael Flynn, Michael Cohen, Donald Trump, Ivanka, Jared, Jr., Eric, all of them. All of them. In fact, what these documents are supposed to show now is that attorneys close to the administration are the ones that help Cohen write his testimony, his draft statement to the Senate where he lied. So it goes right into the White House. Goes right there. and that the lawyers knew the statements would be false. I mean, this is just disgusting. This is really a mockery of a nation of law, let alone what they say, law and order. It's just bizarre. So everybody's talking about, what do we do? What do we do? So there's one opinion. But, everybody agrees on one thing and one thing only. This is easy. This is a simple thing.
If the heart of the story is true, that in a phone call or a face-to-face meeting, President Trump says to Michael Cohen, go lie to Congress.
Yeah, now it's easy, right? Up to this point, we've talked about where is the line for obstruction of justice. It's not enough, for example, some people say, to fire James Comey. What would be witness tampering? This is easy. If he told Michael Cohen to lie to Congress, no one would suggest that's not obstruction of justice or witness tampering, and that would be a crime.
It was the first impeachment order against Richard Nixon. We know from what Mueller said during Cohen's sentencing that he provided relevant and useful information. He described the circumstances of preparing this false testimony to the Congress. What if it was something a little more subtle than the president saying to him, go lie? What if all the lawyers are talking, they're sharing information, they're sharing stories they know are not true, and saying we all have to be consistent, basically knowing that Michael Cohen's going to lie, but not directing it?
Well, first of all, I'm going to hope that all the lawyers together aren't gathering and sort of talking together about how to lie.
They did have a joint defense agreement.
Yeah, they did.
Oh,
but
man.
A joint defense agreement is different than saying that all the lawyers are getting together and saying we have to work on how to deal with this lie. But assuming it's a little grayer, assuming that it's unclear and that maybe there's an understanding and that there's no directive, that makes it a lot harder to prove, because you need, and that's one of the most important points from this article, is this idea that there are emails to back it up, that there were interviews with numerous witnesses. So you want to, as much as possible, investigating this, take it out of Michael Cohen's hands and put it into the hands of others.
And then finally in the article, it does describe activity all during the campaign, 10 meetings with the president over the Trump Tower in Moscow, suggesting it's going to bring in $300 million. He needs Russian help for it. He's lying about it at a time that Russia is helping his campaign.
And that, no question, will be part of the essence of Mueller's investigation.
I mean, that's the crazy part right there, okay? That all this is going on while the Russians are hacking us. That all this is going on while there's coordination between Russia, if you're listening, they start hacking. Now they're hacking Hillary Clinton's emails, not just the DNC and the RNC. By the way, Lindsey Graham says he was hacked too. Perhaps this is why he lays supine in front of Trump. Maybe there was something they found in his emails, for God's sake. But that said, okay, so they're hacking. They're publishing the hacked, stolen material. Trump needs more help. He stands up and says, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you could find Hillary's emails. Then they hack that day Hillary's emails. And the whole time they're having meetings with banks, VTB Bank, a bank that's under Russian sanctions. And Michael Flynn is assuring them the sanctions will come off and all business can go forward if Donald wins.
Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Look, here's the fundamental point. This isn't just nefarious behavior in terms of deceiving the electorate in 2016. It is a federal crime to order someone to lie in their testimony to Congress. That's what the BuzzFeed article says, and it says that Mueller has corroborated that with email, text messages, electronic information, and the like. Again, we don't know the veracity of that, but if it is true, you're absolutely right, Don. It's a blockbuster. It suggests that the president himself committed felonies, not just directed other people to commit felonies, but did it himself.
And again, the two federal law enforcement sources. Let's be clear about who the sources are, according to BuzzFeed. Neil, David Cicilline, a Democratic congressman who sits on the House Judiciary Committee, says if the president directed Cohen to lie to Congress, that is obstruction of justice, period, full stop. Could this, if proven accurate, could this bring the president closer to impeachment?
Absolutely. So look, it's a federal crime for sure. And then also it is exactly the kind of stuff the founders feared and why the impeachment clause exists. And look, I'm not sure Donald Trump at this point has anything else. I mean, I think he almost wants to be impeached at this point. I mean, just his behavior with the wall and stuff. He has no domestic agenda left. His domestic agenda is literally Twitter plus the wall. That's about it. And impeachment would actually allow him to at least do what he loves, which is to be a snowflake and pretend he's the victim and the Democrats are this and that. But at the end of the day, I think the impeachment process, if these facts are corroborated in today's report, I actually just don't see how Congress can do anything else but commence an investigation into impeachment. Not prejudge the outcome, but I think they've got to launch that investigation.
Conservatism is a racket.
It is. There's no question it is. It's a big money mob. That's all it is. And it has been. And this is just the culmination, as I keep on telling you, of a corrupt government that began with Newt Gingrich and the Contract on America. That's 1994 when Bill Clinton actually became the president of the United States. That is when, the entire Republican Party had felt they had a philanderer as a president. Obviously, Bill Clinton cheated on Hillary Clinton many, many, many times, and we all know it. And he thought that he could blackmail the president of the United States into doing things that the Republican Party wanted done. And that would be tax cuts to the very wealthy. Well, Bill Clinton came into office and Bill Clinton raised taxes. He raised taxes and we got another experience of prosperity and started balancing the budget and creating 22 million new jobs. And the Republicans were having none of it. None of it. And so they started this revolution of corruption. The Republican revolution of corruption. And this is the end. This is the natural conclusion to everything that I have screamed about since 1994. Everything. Everything that I told you would happen has happened. We take 2 steps forward every time we get a Democratic administration, and then we take 9 steps backward every time we hand it over to a Republican again. We end up in dirty wars. We end up spending trillions of dollars. We end up with debt. We end up with deficits. We end up with inequality. We end up with the rich making out like bandits. We end up with no raises. We end up with shutdowns. We end up with, interns working at the White House. This is what they do. They break the government every time they get near it. Every time. Because law and order is not something they can live with. They're criminals. They commit crimes. That's what criminals do. And what do when they commit their crimes? They point at others and say they're the ones that are committing the crime when they're doing it. It's exactly opposite world. It's totally a 180. Up is down, black is white. You through the looking glass. You always feel disoriented with a Republican administration. Always. You cannot believe the things they suggest. Rigging elections, having the Supreme Court pick a president, raising taxes on the middle class and lowering taxes on the wealthy, or outsourcing, hiring contractors. Money just disappears. Pallets of cash disappear. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. And then you find out contractors are masquerading as CIA agents and low-ranking reservists are being told to torture people. Next thing you know, warrantless wiretapping. You got to get a James Comey and a Bob Mueller into a hospital room to keep a demeralled up attorney general after a gallbladder surgery from signing into law a warrantless wiretapping program so everybody's information gets collected and they'll know for the next election who to target. Now it's outright stealing of elections. They just don't, they'll fill out your ballot for you and then they'll throw them away. They give internal polling data to Russians and they have the Russians pinpoint and target people they want to suppress. I mean, it's such a culmination of corruption to the nth degree that democracy itself is in jeopardy. I mean, seriously, people are working and not getting paid? Are you freaking kidding me? For a stupid wall that he needs to talk about to distract the maggots, the Colt 45, the Al-Qaeda, the base, he needs to distract them with this racism. Because nobody thinks the wall is going to stop any drugs because the drugs come through the legal ports of entry. Anybody, including, what's his name, Hurd, he's a congressman. He's got like the longest border territory of any congressman, and Will Hurd happens to be a Republican from Texas. He's sitting there telling you there is no freaking way a wall is going to do jack crap. Okay? You need technology, for God's sake. We need dogs. Here's Will Hurd.
House Democrats have voted to reopen government agencies, but President Trump says he won't go along without funding for a border wall.
Wait a minute. What did you say, Gail? Gail just said that the Democrats are voting to open the government. Guess what? They've been doing that. First, they passed the 6 funding bills, and then they passed them one by one, and Donald Trump cancels Nancy. By the way, did you know? I didn't know this yesterday because I read Donald Trump's letter. You know, Idiot Boy wasn't even able to tell everybody successfully where Nancy Pelosi was headed on a military aircraft. I knew it was a Codell, but see, I read his stupid letter. This is his stupid letter, which you could see because of the stupid signature on his stupid letter. And he said that she was going to Egypt. She wasn't going to Egypt. They were going to Afghanistan to get a briefing on sensitive intelligence and like, what is our plan there? Except because the president has no earthly idea what he's doing. So a CODEL, which is a congressional delegation, and I told you this yesterday, and I thought they were going to Egypt because that's what he wrote in this stupid note. Well, they weren't going to Egypt. They were going to Afghanistan. And you know what's crazy? You know what's crazy? He told them to fly commercial. Let's all go on Expedia, shall we? And see what a flight from, West Palm Beach to Bagram Air Force Base costs. Let's do that, everybody. Let's do round trips from, California to Kabul. See what our options are. I mean, this is a ridiculous presidency. But anyway, they have been voting. And he wrote this stupid note to her that said, due to the shutdown, I'm sorry to inform you that your trip to Brussels, Egypt, and Afghanistan have been postponed. We will reschedule this 7-day excursion when the shutdown is over. In light of the 800,000 great American workers who are not receiving pay, I'm sure you would agree that postponing this public relations event is totally appropriate. I also feel that during this period, it would be better if you were here in Washington. What, there's no phones? There's no phones on these military planes? There's no phone in Brussels? You know why she's going to Brussels? It's where NATO is. They were going to reassure our NATO allies, Turkey especially, that we were, staying where we were and we weren't going to do anything to our allies or the Kurds. Oh, my God. So now, like I said yesterday, even when I thought they were going to Egypt, I know that there's all kinds of security around these CODELs. And I also know that it's security on the other side, wherever you're going. So now you got like the Afghan, government and the Afghan security forces, and you got Afghan, foreign fighters that are working with us, all getting ready to keep secret a congressional delegation that includes the next in line after Pence to the presidency of the United States. And now, Idiot Boy, they know where she's going. So if you were planning to undo the American government, now you can watch what the Afghans do whenever a VIP, whenever an American, government official of any import comes. You could see the movements of the Afghan army. You could see the movements of the Afghan police. You could see the movements of the Afghan government. This man is such a threat to our security. Meanwhile, they've been voting, and Trump won't sign anything.
House Democrats have voted to reopen government agencies, but President Trump says he won't go along without funding for a border wall. A few House Republicans have voted with the Democrats, including Congressman Will Hurd. He's from Texas. He is the only GOP member representing a district along the southern border, and it happens to include more of the border than any other district. Congressman Hurd joins us at the table. Good morning to you. There is much to discuss with you today, but first let's start with the shutdown. It seems to be so tit for tat and so personal. In the meantime, Will, You've got close to 800,000 people who are still not getting paid. Do you have any suggestions on how we end it and move along?
Look, I think the way we end this is stop with the preconditions, have everybody come together. Let's stop worrying about a Democratic solution or a Republican solution and come up with an American solution.
Sounds reasonable, but...
It is. And when you look, there's 400,000 people came into the country illegally last year. We have 67 billion illegal drugs coming into our country. We should be able to secure our border. But the people that are involved in securing our border right now are not getting paid. And so the people that are keeping us safe, not getting paid, they should be able to get paid for their work. This is having an impact on cybersecurity as well, because there's officials within DHS who are protecting our digital infrastructure. Not all of them are on staff. When we're fully staffed, we don't have enough people.
Right.
Coast Guard, who's responsible for stopping a lot of drugs from coming in our country, they're having to go to food pantries in order to get fed. This makes no sense, and we should be able to work together.
You're a member of the president's own party. You're a Republican. Why not meet with him?
Well, look, I meet with everybody. There's a lot of conversations that are going on. I'm trying to talk about how we can solve this. The way we're going to solve this is with technology. Building a wall from sea to shining sea is the most expensive and least effective way to do border security. There are parts of the border where Border Patrol's response time is measured in hours to days. A wall is not a physical barrier when it takes you hours or days to respond to something. So we should be using technology. DHS, Department of Homeland Security, has new programs that they're trying to implement, but guess what? We can't implement them because the government is shut down. And so this kind of conversation, we need to all work together to solve this problem. Let's talk about the Secure Fence Act, which everybody already passed.
Yay.
Let's double down on technology along the border.
Okay.
Let's make sure our ports of entry are robust. Hey, we're at 3.9% unemployment. We need workers. So let's streamline immigration at the same time and deal with the root causes, which is violence and lack of economic opportunities in Central America. State Department is shut down as well, too. USAID is shut down, and they have a role in doing that as well.
I'm applauding a Republican, everybody. I'm applauding a Republican. Please make a note of it.
Randy, that's the first time a Republican's talked to me, and I didn't feel like I was getting lied to in a long, long time.
Yeah. He is a Republican, and, I guess if we talked long enough, we would find, that we had to, now I have to turn my back. Now I have to turn a lifetime of work, like $1,300. Yeah, now I got to turn my back. But on this border issue, did you see the 23rd District? If you couldn't see it and you're listening on a podcast, please buy a stinking podcast. Thank you. But if you are listening on a podcast and you couldn't see what I was showing you, just Google the 23rd District of Texas and look at the border. It's gigunda. It's from north. It's from El Paso all the way down to San Antonio. And he is the congressman from that district, and I think he knows a thing or two about a thing or two. There's no way that we can secure the border without technology. And I love dogs. I gotta say, I love dogs. I love when they're trained. I love when they sniff out the hundreds of thousands of dollars in pesos that get transferred to the drug dealers. I love that.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randy, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
How much actual lying can you take?
The deficit ballooning to over $1 trillion under this president. Where are the additional monies for this wall going to come from, and why is he asking the American taxpayer for them when he promised Mexico was going to pay?
Look, we're not asking American taxpayers for that. We are looking at existing funding through other agencies right now that we can draw on to do that immediately.
So
the president's been clear.
deficit.
The president has been clear that the USMCA deal would provide additional revenue through that deal that would show that Mexico is paying for the wall.
The Treasury, though, the trade benefits, if there are any, don't go to the Treasury.
Hello.
He's saying that the revenue provided and the money that would be saved through the USMCA deal, we could pay for the wall 4 times over, and by doing that new trade deal, we have the opportunity to pay for the wall.
But trade benefits go to private citizens.
Hello.
They don't go to the United States Treasury.
He's talking about the general revenue that comes from that.
So you're going to tax
No, we're not taxing. We're talking about additional revenue that wouldn't have existed without the president getting a new deal.
Have you done the math on that?
There have been a number of things that we've looked at in which we know we'll have additional revenue that comes in through the USMCA.
From the USMCA into the Treasury?
We think there will be more than that comes in.
She has no earthly idea what she's talking about. She's just lying. But finally, a reporter asks her about this stupid trade deal paying for the wall. I told you, the money doesn't go into the Treasury. It would go to Walmart, or it would go to you. It wouldn't go into the Treasury. So what is he talking about? The trade money. Which, by the way, this trade deal has not been voted on by the House or the Senate. It hasn't been voted on by Canada. It hasn't been voted on by Mexico. And guess what the dirty little secret about it is? Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's NAFTA. It's the same thing. Except instead of 40% of car parts have to have some relationship to the United States, like a bearing has to be made here in the car. No, now they say, okay, so 60% has to be made. I mean, it's the same damn thing. So if you're a bearings manufacturer, let's say, so you're going to, see more orders for bearings. How does that go to the Treasury unless Donald Trump's going to tax the ball bearing manufacturer? Do you know what I mean? It makes no sense. They just lie. And the only reason why they're talking about the stupid wall is for the base to not pay attention to the fact that the president is a Russian asshat. All right, Rhonda in Erie. Hi, Rhonda.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good.
Okay, so let me say this before I ask you my question, because I actually called to ask you one question.
Okay.
So the first thing I want to do is thank you for your meticulous stitching together of all of these facts into the shitty patchwork quilt that it actually is. I mean, it's really been good, to listen to you bring all these pieces together and put them in, because this stuff is complicated, and putting them into a coherent whole.
It's a scam. That's all it is. It's just a big scam so that he could get a tower built in Moscow. God only knows what Vladimir Putin knows about him with regard to money laundering and buying apartments from him and buying that stupid mansion that the guy never saw, right? And he bought it for 4 times what it was worth, and then just tore it down. And we drive here. I drive by it all the time.
So here's my question. Okay, if Donald Trump, I want you to put your considerable stitching thoughts to this. Okay, so if he is indicted and or convicted of conspiracy, okay, in collusion with, Russian assets, do you think it's possible to annul this presidency? So let me tell you what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the and I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm thinking about the concept of ill-gotten gains. If a person commits a crime and they receive money or whatever from it, once they're convicted of that crime, they don't get to keep that stuff. So do you think I know there's no precedent for it, but do you think it's possible to annul his presidency if he were? I mean,
So basically, what
you're
saying is that we should use the forfeiture laws to take away all of his appointees, everything that he touched while he was president.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No. I know. No. Because the forfeiture law, like when you say, somebody's been indicted and convicted of, let's say, drug dealing.
Mm-hmm.
So you take all of their property that was paid for illegally under the forfeiture laws, but you can't do that with a presidency and take away his appointments. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, see, but I don't know
we would
why.
still be left with Kavanaugh.
Yeah, and Gorsuch.
Yeah.
And all of those people, that they have quickly appointed, to the circuit and appellate court. So it really doesn't make any sense to me that a person who is quite potentially, or who would convict, in this case, let's say he's convicted, that he's convicted of being a Russian asset, a willing Russian asset, would get to have people that he chose sit in positions of power in our government. That just makes no sense to me. This is the part of all of this has been bad, but that's the part that's most mind-blowing to me, because everybody I ask that question to everybody I pose the question to says the same thing that you said, and that makes no sense to me.
I understand. I mean, I really do understand, but remember that this president was elected by the Electoral College, okay? He was elected, and so that makes everything different. That means that we don't even know if he can be indicted. I hope to God Bob Mueller indicts him to test it, just so that he can write the indictment and we could read the speaking indictment and understand once and for all the moving parts connected on a piece of paper, which would probably be, a long report, but he writes English, Bob Mueller does. His prosecutors are very talented that way. So I would like to see the indictment just so that we could get the actual document from Mueller, and it won't be the Barr report. It'll be the Mueller indictment.
Right.
And then I don't know if he could be tried while he was a president, or if the Constitution, which does provide a method to remove a president, and that's impeachment and removal, if that's the only way. I don't know if it's the only way. This is something the court has to decide, which is why he was so excited to pack the court, which is why you have to pray for Ruth Bader Ginsburg right now. Okay?
Right, which is just, oh my God.
Yeah, but the
it's
idea
another source of constant stress.
But what we could do as people, and what we could move Congress to do for us, what we could make an issue in 2020 is all the people that were appointed by Trump, we could ask people in exchange for our vote for them to promise that they would at least make a pass at these people to resign because they were appointed by a foreign agent.
Oh, okay. Because now that makes sense to me too.
Yeah.
And some of these people are just flat out unfit.
Yeah, Kavanaugh is unfit. There's no question.
Yeah,
he is.
Yeah.
He's absolutely unfit. He is, I mean, there's an article in Vanity Fair post, this confirmation hearing about how they had this big party at a place in Georgetown to celebrate the Omerta, the oath of Omerta, that these Georgetown prep boys, who are now grown-ass adults, that they all got together in this bar and they were congratulating themselves for keeping their mouths shut, and that all of them were there. Squee was there. They were all there, and they were all congratulating each other for keeping their mouths shut. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting.
Yeah, it is. And
I would make it a campaign issue for whoever wants my primary vote, because that's when you fall in love, right? And that's when you get to ask things of people. I would absolutely ask that one of the commitments that be made is that every single one of these judicial appointments, especially those because they're lifetime appointments, be at least asked to consider resigning since they were appointed by a traitor.
Okay.
It's the best I can.
That is not the answer I wanted.
I know. But you see, I get that question all the time, and I don't even bother going through the discussion because a lot of people can't. But I know you, and I know you're smart as a whip. So, yeah,
I really have been, going back and forth and trying to figure out and I have come to the same conclusion, but I thought, a whole lot more about these things than I do. So I thought, well, maybe.
Well, it was good that you asked, because now we could have, because you asked, we had the discussion, and people can now understand what it is that they're going to want in 2020.
That's true. Because we do have to start talking about that right now. As much as I absolutely hate it, we really do have to start talking about that now.
Yeah.
Because we've got to start planning right now.
I think the debates are in August. So, it starts. It starts soon. Listen, I love you.
All right.
Love you.
Take care.
Be safe. Enjoy your snow. She's in Pennsylvania. It's going to be cold. All right. Eddie in San Jose. Eddie.
Hello, Randy.
Eddie.
Hey, I love Rhonda. For describing all of this, stitching all these thousands of details
into a shitty quilt.
That's brilliant. And speaking of shitty quilts, you played the little clip, conservatism is a racket.
Yeah.
It isn't just a racket. Now it's a bunch of gangster movies.
Yeah.
And you've been quoting Goodfellas.
All
you'll
day.
get your money, Maury.
Yeah.
You'll get your money.
Oh,
now I
Henry
gotta
boy, the pipes, the pipe. Yeah.
And I'm thinking of Godfather, Pat Geary. You can have the casino license. The price is $250,000 plus 5% of the gross, Mr. Corleone. And
now, Senator, you can have my answer right now.
Right now.
And my answer is this: nothing. And I would appreciate it if you would personally put up the money for the liquor license. Yes.
Yeah. And so, now I'm starting to think about Michael Cohen
Mm-hmm.
and the movie Casino.
Yeah.
And he's Artie Piscano. Artie Piscano's the guy they sent out to Vegas to make sure no one was stealing money from the skim. And Artie Piscano winds up taking records. Remember, he's got a notebook, and he's keeping all his records in his notebook. The FBI is wiretapping his
deli.
grocery store.
Yeah, his deli. Yeah.
Right. And then they go to his house, and he has a heart attack right there in front of his wife. When they pick up the notebook.
Yeah, in St. Louis.
Yeah, in St. Louis, because they couldn't go further west than St. Louis,
Right.
otherwise they'd get clipped.
Right.
So now we've got Goodfellas, Godfather Part 2, Casino, and Godfather Part 1.
Yes.
Remember the money that Michael Cohen gave to that John Gouger guy,
Yeah.
$12,000 guy. He also gave him a boxing glove in the bag, right? Well, that's Luca Brasi's bulletproof vest. It's the Sicilian message.
Oh, the fish. It's the fish.
You got the fish in the bag. You got the boxing glove in the bag. That means you're not getting $50,000, you're getting $12,000. Be happy.
Or we punch your lights out.
Or we put your lights out.
So
exactly.
take the $12,000 and call it a day, or I punch your lights out right here, right now.
You'll sleep with the box. You'll sleep with the boxer.
You'll be Maury and Bell.
Oh, Maury.
And Layla.
Maury,
and Layla rises up in the background, builds to a crescendo. Two little boys with big brown eyes go to the pink Cadillac and see two people sitting in the front of the Cadillac with bullets through their brains. These are your choices, people. Listen, I love you. I love you. Thank you. I'm so glad the smart people called today. I really am. It's delightful when that happens. Please buy a stinking podcast. Support the show as much as you can. It's been very slow, I have to say, except for the one guy. The one guy. His name is Dell. That's all. That's all I can say. But thank you. Have a great weekend. Buy a stinking podcast.